Good afternoon, everybody. Happy Friday. Thanks for joining us this afternoon. Hope you're all getting ready to have a nice weekend. I want to begin today by talking a little bit about the numbers, as I normally do. And then we'll talk about an order that we're expecting to issue later this afternoon, most likely. So first of all, confirmed cases in St. Louis City, 1,770. That is 27 cases. This is from yesterday. 27 cases yesterday, 12 the day before, 23 the day before. So you can see it's fluctuating a little bit. All this often depends on when we receive results from the various labs, when the state receives those results. So still trending down a bit and on a good trajectory. Other news, which is even a little bit better, I think, is currently hospitalized 430 people, which is down 18 from yesterday, and 74 people on ventilators right now. 34 people were discharged from the hospital yesterday. So we're continuing to just to watch all of these numbers. You all know that we cracked the door open to businesses and restaurants opening on Monday, so this would be their 5th day that they could be open. Many restaurants are not open, many retail shops are not open yet because they're all trying to get prepared to make sure that they can comply with the guidelines that are required in each of those industry, and they're just getting their operation back together and calling their employees back and that sort of thing. So we're easing into that significantly. So we talked on Wednesday a little bit about summer camps, summer camps and youth activities for the summer. We're talking about day camps, not sleepover camp here. They will be able to open on the 1st of June if they're ready, if they can comply with the protocols and have the proper PPE and the staffing. It's likely, based on what I'm hearing, that some of them won't open on June 1st. They're going to push it to the 8th or maybe even the 15th, but it gives them some flexibility, gives them an opportunity to get ready to open, to register some kids. Now they'll have significantly fewer kids will be able to go to camp because they have to practice the social distancing and wear masks, hand washing, etc. But it does give some opportunity. We know that parents rely on summer camps in the summer for enriched activities for their kids, good activities to keep their kids engaged and busy, which is very important. And so it's been hard for those parents up to now when we were not able to announce that date. Excuse me. So that is summer camps. We also talked about pools a little bit on Wednesday. Pools will be able to open also on June 1st if they're ready. And it's likely that a lot of them won't be ready because, like our city pools, which likely won't open, they may not open at all this summer. We're still trying to figure that out. But they likely won't open at least for another month because we have lifeguards. We don't have lifeguards hired and they're not trained, etc. But pools can open, and many apartment pools will be able to open, condo pools. Of course, private residence pools could always open. So pools and aquatic center have a window here where they can begin to hire the staff that they need and get their facility ready. The third item to talk about today is we are issuing today, and it's been out on a couple of websites for a couple of days, the guidance and protocols for the cultural institutions, destinations, attractions, large venues. That's a very extensive guidance that we'll have up on our website by the end of the day. And so in addition, for the zoo, for example, or the botanical gardens or the science center, they not only have to comply with the guidelines, they have to submit their operating plan to us. And Dr. Eccles is reviewing those operating plans now and approving them, getting back to them, back and forth, until they get an operating plan that he believes is an adequate operating plan. And the date for that, the earliest any of them can open is on June the 8th. That's about 2.5 weeks away. And so we will be able to see more about what's happening with our numbers as a result of opening, cracking the door up, open on restaurants and small business and retail. We'll be able to know more about that before June 8th. And we certainly hope that all of these opening dates stick, but we always reserve the right to see what's going on with hospitalizations, and modify that if we need to. We don't want to have to do that, but it's definitely something that we have to keep in mind. And all the large venues know that that's a possibility. So, but June 8th is the date that they can begin to open. As you may have seen, the zoo has announced that they're going to open to the public on June 13th. The Botanical Gardens and Science Center are similar, so there's a window. Everybody has to figure out their operation. And then the last topic, and I know many of you are really interested in this because we get a lot of questions about it, is gyms, fitness centers, dance studios, yoga studios, and those related activities. They will be able to open with restrictions on June the 15th. And those guidelines, I believe St. Louis County we're both using the same date here, June the 15th. I think they put their guidelines out this morning. We'll be putting this out with an order. Our guidelines will be very much the same, if not identical, on all of these. So that's 4 new sets of guidance that will be coming out shortly. We always try to put these out in time to allow the businesses that are in this business time to internalize, figure out how to implement these guidelines so that they can move forward and be ready at the time that they think is appropriate. So that's kind of the news for today. And I think these are the last major industry groups. I'm sure we'll have some questions from folks maybe that can't quite figure out, well, which one applies to me. There is general business guidelines out there, and that's been out there for a couple of weeks now. It's on our website. It's in order number 8. Order number 9 will modify order number 8 in order to include these 4 new sets of guidelines. So, do we have any questions today?
Yes, Mayor.
Good. Thank you, guys.
Selena's question has to do with church, and can you clarify if churches are still limited to the no more than 10 people in a gathering?
No. Churches can open. They could open this past Monday on the 18th, as long as they follow the CDC guidelines, which are extensive and they're online, and they include, you have to do social distancing. Let me give you an example. If there's a pew at church and you've got 3 or 4 people in a family who come together, those 3 or 4 people can sit on one end of the pew. If it's long enough, 6 feet away, someone else can sit on the other end of the pew. 1 people, 2 persons, whatever. They've got to be 6 feet away. Your family can sit together. You live in the same household with them, so that's not a problem. The row behind you should be empty. And then you go to the 3rd row, and again, you have socially distanced folks. So that is, and you have to wear masks. So that's the rules for churches. We also, for churches, really choirs should not be singing together. Somebody needs to do a solo, because you just can't have a group of people, a choir of people, singing their heart out, expelling all that air that it takes in the choir, and putting that air on everybody else. That's not a safe situation. The other thing with regard to churches is no hugging or saying hi to your neighbor and shaking hands. You have to use that little elbow bump or not at all. And that's the way that we've allowed churches to open. By the way, and I've been asked this question a number of times, that would also apply to funerals, for example. Some funerals are in churches, some funerals are in funeral homes, still have to socially distance. And I know that is that's been a heartbreaking and an especially hard thing for people over the last 2.5 months. You will have a much smaller group, but you will be able to have a service, a small service. So,
an interesting question, I think, from Von Treese, who is watching. Her question is can you speak to what the positive cases look like among our youth, like kids 10 to 20?
I don't have those numbers in front of me, but I do know that there are very few cases, kids 10 to 20, but there are cases. And one of the things that I could get for you is I can look that up, and Dr. Eccles can tell us the number of cases. But when you consider that we've got 1,770 cases, it's online, right?
I'm
You're
looking at it
up
right now. So
okay, it's on our website, by the way.
So for females 10 to 19, there
Kyle's got it right there. What
are
do you got?
females 10 to 19, there are 13 positive cases.
Okay.
And males 10 to 19, there are only 16 positive cases.
Okay, so
It's the smallest age range of positive
yeah.
cases in the city.
so that's 39, right? 29. Yeah, 29. Sorry, cases in the for 10 to 20 year olds in the city, to date. So that's out of our 1,770 cases. And I got to tell you, for those of you that are interested, we have a lot of great information on our website. We've got charts, we've got graphs. It's by race, it's by age. And so if you're really interested in digging into some of those details, you might want to go to our website and look at it. The state's website also was recently considerably improved with regard to data.
Paul's question, when you talked about pools, can you specify what the guidance will be for city recreation centers and city-operated swimming pools?
So there's, right now, city pools are not going to open. Because as I mentioned, the guidance would be the same for a city pool as it would be for any other pool. But we don't have any lifeguards hired. And it's possible that we'll open them at some point this summer. I'd like to. I think pools are really an important part of summer if you can do it. But at this point in time, we're not opening those city pools. Now, some of you who know the city well know that we have 2 recplexes that are operated by the Y, one in O'Fallon Park and one in Carondelet Park. And the Y also has not made a decision yet about whether or not they're going to open those pools. The last 2.5, 3 months, that's when you would have been hiring your lifeguards, training your lifeguards, sending them to the Red Cross for lifeguard training, all of those kinds of things, getting your pool ready to go. But we've been on a stay-at-home order. We weren't able to do that. So I don't know at this point in time that city pools, outdoor city pools, or indoor pools, for that we have a few indoor pools, will open this summer. Something that we're going to look at.
You've talked about churches and you've talked about large venue meeting spaces.
Mm-hmm.
How does that play into weddings moving forward, and then groups of 10 or more?
So if you read the large venue guidelines, which we'll have up on our website before the end of the day, what you're going to see is that let's say it's a room that normally holds 300 people, and maybe you want to have 200 people at your wedding. You're only going to be able to have 25% of that 300. I should have picked an easier number. What's 25%? 60. Is that right?
I don't know.
60,
You're the
60,
CPA.
120, 240. No, 75, sorry. 75 people would be all the people you'd be able to have in a room that would normally hold 300 people. And so there are some pretty strict limitations, but you can have a small reception. You can have a wedding at a church. Again, it'll have to be small because you'll have to socially distance. But you can have small events starting after. Well, you can do the wedding now and wait for the reception, but starting after June 8th, if your venue is ready to go. You won't have the round tables with 8 people seated around it. That's a no-no in the new guidelines, because it's just not the way to keep people socially distanced.
So a follow-up question to that from Lauren Mayer. She wants to know about further along down the summer, like in August, do we anticipate higher capacity limits and fewer restrictions on some of these venues and spaces?
You know, Lauren, I wish we all knew we all want that answer, but we don't really know it right now. It depends on what happens. Depends on whether or not we see an increase in hospitalizations, an increase in people in ICU and on ventilators. If we see that, we will have also seen a big increase in cases. So we don't know the answer to that. We are hoping that everybody restrains themselves, continues to wear their masks, and socially distance, and that we don't have an upward trend. But we really don't know. I would say this to you, I hope so. I hope that by August, that's 2 more months, I would hope that by August we would be able to have more than 25% capacity at our venues and our cultural institutions, but I just don't know the answer to that.
2 questions, one from Tanya and one from Devin. Same topic though. Do you anticipate additional testing to be made available soon for people who are not representing any symptoms of COVID-19?
Yes. That's one of the things that we've seen over the last week, a little more than a week maybe, and you can see this on the state's website in particular, and that is the state shows the number of positive cases and the number of negative cases, and you can see that the number of tests is really going up. You can also see when you turn on the news and your federally qualified health centers can give tests, your some of the labs can give tests. There are a couple of mobile vans. So yes, tests are finally, just this week really, becoming more available. And so more people are able to be tested. And there's 2 kinds of testing, you know that probably. One kind is the kind that says, it's a diagnostic test. Do I have COVID-19 right now? And that's a swab, nasal swab, goes into a tube, goes off to the lab processes it. It takes anywhere from 2 days to 10 days sometimes to get that back. The other kind of test, it's also done in hospitals, by the way, but I'm assuming that you're not in the hospital for this test. The other kind of testing that some folks are doing out there is the antibody test that says, have I had it? Do I have the antibodies? Have I had COVID and I don't know it? Now, those tests are out there. I know people who have had them, and they are not as reliable, but they are some information. So, and you can also get those tests. I know that the Total Access Urgent Care, I think, is doing those tests. I saw that. So there are a number of places, and now you can get tested, and testing is free. So if you want to get a test, you got to call first. You can't just show up. You got to call. Walgreens is even doing some testing. So that's all causing its own difficulty in terms of reporting and timely reporting. So now you got a lot more people in the space, and they're all supposed to be reporting into the state. But nevertheless, it's an opportunity, and it's something that we definitely need. We have needed it. You've all heard me talk about this for 8 weeks. You know, we don't have any tests. We don't have any tests. Well, now we finally are having some tests. The city got 20,000 tests. We have used all of those. We got those tests, 2 weeks ago, maybe a week and a half ago, something like that. And We're expecting to get another big shipment of tests here, we hope next Friday. And I say it in that way because we've been disappointed many times on when our orders were supposed to come in. So I don't think anybody's doing that intentionally. It's just that, you know, from everything from just a simple mask to gloves to gowns to shoe covers to face masks to tests, you know, we just did not have the supply in this country. And one of the things that you might hear talked about for those folks out there that might be in know about this, it's something called just-in-time inventory. It's been the thing that manufacturers and hospitals, everybody did it. You wanted to order your supplies just in time so they would get there at the right time for you to use them. And that's really a good method if there's sufficient supply. It's a good method because you don't have to have a big warehouse full of inventory. You don't have to pay for something this month and not use it for another month or 2 or 3. But when you come into a crisis like this, almost no matter what business you're in, this just-in-time shipping is just not quite in time. So I think everybody's rethinking their, you know, how they're going to do that. But it's interesting. So there are enough tests now.
A question from Brett, who's inquiring about organized sports leagues and if that is available by any of the new dates that we've announced.
Depends on what they are, Brett. If they're non-contact sports, I'm going to pull this out so I can refer to it for you. Then, yes, tennis is a non-contact sport. They might have a league. If it's soccer, no. Basketball courts, no. Racquetball, no. So it depends on what the sport is. The short answer to that is not many. Not many. Not right now.
Sharita's question is, can you speak about what the plans might be looking like for the upcoming school year?
Where everyone's trying to figure that out. You know, you've seen some colleges and universities announce, some have announced, okay, we're going to be online. Others have announced, we're going to have classes. All of these announcements are somewhat tentative because nobody really knows exactly what's going to happen. I certainly hope that kids are able to go back to school in the fall, whether that's August 10th or September 1st or what the date is, I don't know. It will really just depend on what happens this summer. If we all continue to socially distance, to wear masks, to wash our hands, to be careful, and we don't see a big uptick in the number of cases or in the number of people that are seriously sick and in the hospital, then I think it is likely that schools may open this late summer, early fall. But that is just a guess right now. And frankly, it's not even a decision that I necessarily get to make. The school systems, Dr. Kelvin Adams in the city of St. Louis and the charter schools and the parochial schools and the independent private schools, they'll all make those decisions. But I think, you know, they need more information than they have right now before they can make that decision in most cases.
2 questions about contact tracing, Mayor. Lisa's wanting to know, is the city considering hiring contact tracers? And if so, another question from someone is, how do we go about applying to maybe be one?
So the city will be hiring additional contact tracers. We don't have that position posted yet on our website, but when we do, you will be able to apply through the city website. There's a little tab on there that says, you know, work for the city or something like that. You'll be able to apply online for that. We are doing fine now with regard to contact tracing. I'm sure you've all heard this because we have a lot of the process automated. Not all of it at all, of course, but we do have a lot of it automated. And so we're doing fine right now. We also one of the distinctions here is that sometimes you have an outbreak in a congregate facility, whether it be a nursing home or a children's home or a group home, those congregate living facilities. And when that is the case, then that facility is doing the monitoring of those people that are within that facility. Let's just use a nursing home as an example. Two positive cases in a nursing home is considered an outbreak. And that nursing home, of course, is visited by us. They've all been visited by us already, more than once. We make sure they have PPE, that they know proper infection control, that sort of thing. But then they would have a lot of very serious information that they would have to report on however many people were in that nursing home. So yes, we will be hiring more contact tracers, and you would apply online.
2 City Hall, city employee related questions.
Mm-hmm.
The first of which, will all city offices at City Hall be open? They're asking, Charlotte's asking this week, but since the week's over, maybe next week.
Yeah, City Hall's gonna be closed for the holiday. But Charlotte, all the offices at City Hall are already open, and they never completely closed. Every office has been providing service. A lot of that service has been provided online. We did not allow visitors. We are not allowing visitors right now into City Hall. We're going to start that on June the 1st. But you could still come and drop something off at City Hall during this entire time. The doors have not been locked at all. That said, we do expect to begin having visitors in our city buildings, whether it's City Hall itself or 1520 Market or our other buildings, on June the 1st. Everyone will have to wear a mask who comes into City Hall. Let's just say that maybe you're coming to renew your license plate or your driver's license, because that's a busy office. And they plan to reopen June 1st. First thing you should do is try to do it online, because most people can do it online. And if you're watching me on Facebook, which you are if you're hearing me, then you have access to either a phone or an iPad or a tablet or a computer. So you can do a lot of this online. If you do need to come to City Hall for some reason to get that done, then you'll come to the front door. We'll take your name, we'll take your phone number, we'll take what is it that you need to do at the license office, and we'll ask you to wait in your car, and we'll call you when your number comes up or when it's time. So we're doing that in order to try not to have big crowds of people in City Hall. The DMV office, Department of Motor Vehicles office, is ordinarily an extremely busy office. And so we're just really trying to make sure that we're able to space people out. You will see when you come, if you come, and you don't do it online, you will see that there are plexi screens. There's hand sanitizer, there's spread out seating for the few people who get to wait. So it'll be different, but that's a long answer to your easy question, I guess.
An interesting question from Aaron, who's curious about what the impact of coronavirus has had on the 2020 census and the turnout in the city of St. Louis.
That's a good question, Aaron. The stay-at-home order, you might think that if people were staying at home that they'd fill out their census, but actually that didn't happen. And so we know that we are somewhat behind in getting our census numbers in, and the census is so important to us because many federal dollars are allocated to a city or a county, a region, based on what their census is. So if you don't fill out your census, then we will get less in terms of federal dollars for whether it be homeless services, whether it be block grant monies, all kinds of funds. So please do fill out your census. You go online and do it. You got something in the mail which gave you a PIN number. And the census has been pushed back about 6 months. I don't know the exact pushback, but there is longer to do it because it would have been, the one portion of it would have been completed by now. So yes, it certainly has had an effect.
A question from an avid cyclist who loves having the roads closed in Forest Park. Are there any plans to remove the barriers that kept cars out so people had more room to socially distance?
So Some will be removed when the zoo opens. Some of those roads, you'll have to be able to get there. What we plan to do is keep some roads closed and open those that need to be opened. The zoo won't have the size of crowds that they've had in the past, but you still have to be able to get there, park, get in, that sort of thing. So,
Devin's question is, what is the status of vote by mail and no excuse absentee voting in the city of St. Louis?
so this is a state question. It's a question that the city doesn't have any control over. The rules that surround voting, absentee voting, no excuse absentee voting, voting by mail are all done at the state level. And what the state has passed last week was a law, if it's signed, and it hasn't been signed yet, but if it is signed, that would allow absentee voting through 2021. I believe it's 2021. Maybe it's 2020. Somebody handing us a note on that? No, that's another
No,
question.
it's another question.
So you will be able, there is more absentee voting without an excuse and without a notary. So provided that law gets signed. I think it will, but you never know.
Abby's question is, where is your mask, Mayor?
Right here, Abby. You see this? Mm-hmm. I just take it off to talk to you guys. I have a lot of them too. I've got this one. I've got this one. This one's really cute. So, not to worry. I have masks in my purse. If I see you and you're out, it's just a little hard. And I'm not within 6 feet of anybody here, by the way. So, absolutely. I don't know if you all have seen the little video that we posted on Facebook and Twitter. If you, I think it was about 3 days ago, maybe 2 or 3 days ago. It's a little 30-second spot. It's got 5 or 6 people in it. It's got Mr. Wooten, who's a bus driver. It's got Allison Mace, who runs Sauce Magazine. It's got one of our city marshals in it. It's got a very big personality, one of our trash truck drivers, and it's got John Goodman in it. John Goodman, is from St. Louis. Hopefully all of you know who that is. He's a big guy with a huge, deep voice who was on a show a long time ago called Roseanne, and what else is he on?
It's still on, actually.
Well, it is still on. Yeah. Okay. So it's been around for a while. So anyway, take a quick look at it. We're trying to encourage everybody to wear a mask. I know since you're on social media, you've seen a lot of back and forth on that. Unfortunately, masks seem to have become kind of the third rail of politics, which is it's crazy. Wear a mask to keep yourself safe, and wear a mask to keep other people safe, and it's not that much trouble for you. So.
Okay, we have time for a few more questions. Jimmy's question is, what are we doing? Oh, it went away. What are we doing about the infection rate number going back up a little bit?
The number of positive cases, it goes up and down and up and down. Like, for example, let me put my glasses on here. Yesterday it was 20.
I think he said the R0 number.
Oh, are you talking about the R0 number?
Yes.
Maybe you are. Oh, that's what you're talking
My bad,
about? You're
yeah.
not talking about the number of cases. Okay. It's, so for those of you that don't know, the R0 number, it's called, is if I'm positive and I infect one other person, that means the R0 is 1. If I infect 2 people, the R0's 2. So the R0 was fairly high, 2.5 or so when we started this. It went down, it hovered right under 1. And then it's right above 1, and it's hovering there. As long as we're hovering around 1, the pandemic task force says that's okay. If we start really seeing an uptick in it, then that's not okay.
A non-COVID-19 related question.
Okay?
Jennifer's question is, where do you get in the city of St. Louis a property tax waiver if you didn't pay last year?
Online. Pretty sure you can. I bet you're talking about a personal property tax waiver. And I do believe, I'm reasonably sure you can get that online. I know you can get it if you did pay your taxes, you can get it. But go on the assessor's website and read about that. Hopefully you can get it online. If you can't, then you'll have to wait till June 1st.
Have anybody taken the city up on the expanded permits for using public and private spaces for restaurants?
Yes, so we talked about this, maybe it was last week, that it's better to dine outside if you can, and restaurants need the additional seating capacity since they have to space people so far apart. And so we made an easy application process for restaurants or groups of restaurants or business associations to propose to have more sidewalk seating, or maybe seating on an adjacent parking lot, or in some cases closing parts of a street. They had to submit a plan. They have to submit a plan. We approved one of those plans this morning at the Board of Public Service meeting. We worked with them this week. It's a location downtown on 6th Street between Washington and I think it's Washington and Locust. And so there are several restaurants there, Pie, Sugar Fire, I won't be able to name them all, but several restaurants there that went together and said, okay, we want to allow people to carry out food, take it outside, sit at a table, and that way we have additional seating. So their proposal, and I don't know if it's going to happen today, but their proposal was to do it on Friday, late afternoons, 4 to 7, I think was the hours, and they'd close down a block of the street. Shouldn't bother anybody on that particular block. It was signed off by their alderman and the other businesses in the Downtown Business Association.
Emily's question is pickleball open?
Pickleball's not open, Emily. It's a contact sport, and contact sports aren't open. So basketball's not open, pickleball, handball, hockey, soccer, those are not open.
We're running low on questions, so maybe we'll wrap it up here.
Good.
But Robbie has a question about elderly people and vulnerable high-risk populations who might still be in need of PPE. Are there available city services who can assist in getting them those materials?
There are. So is this question about a nursing home, or what is it?
Elderly people.
Just elderly people who may be in their homes, or so let me sort of take that question broadly. We have supplied masks to the housing authority to supply to anyone who's in a housing authority property or building. We've supplied it with anyone who gets Meals on Wheels. We've supplied it to nursing homes, congregate care facilities. We've supplied some to churches, and we're supplying it, but there are other people supplying it as well. Prepare STL, which is a volunteer group, they have also supplied a lot of masks. So if you've got a situation that is an issue, let us know. Email us at restartstlouis@stlouis-mo.gov, and we'll help you figure it out.
That's all the time we have.
And by the way, can I add on to this?
Oh,
I can't.
Your
okay.
show.
So it's someone who's elderly, I think is the way you phrased it. They really should still be staying home. They should not expand their circle much, if at all. Go out only if they need to. The most vulnerable populations here are older people with underlying health conditions, and it's very, very serious if they contract COVID, if they get the virus. And so we are really recommending that those people kind of stay close to home as much as possible. If they have visitors, they should make sure that both the visitor and the individual wears a mask. There still are no visitors allowed in nursing homes. But maybe this is, your grandma or your mom or your aunt or somebody, a relative that you're inquiring about. So try to give you the spectrum there.
Last question from Pete. He just snuck it in.
Hi, Pete.
When will Forest Park golf courses open?
I don't know what date they're going to open, but they are allowed to open. Golf is not considered a contact sport. You're just supposed to have contact the club to the ball, not to people. But you will have to have one person in a cart, or better yet, carry your clubs. And so they are allowed to open, and I don't know if they've set an opening date yet or not.
All right.
Okay? Thank you all. Appreciate you being with us this afternoon. And everybody have a good weekend. And, you know, we won't be here on Monday because that's Memorial Day. Remember those loved ones and those people who fought for our country. And but we will be back next Wednesday. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Bye-bye.